The NFL football playoffs are upon us. I'm Giovanni Heater, and thanks so much for tuning in. I had the opportunity to sit down with three rising sports broadcasters in the industry and really take a deep dive look at the 2020-2021 NFL playoff landscape. So without further ado, let's dive right into the action. It's predictions and hot takes. It's NFL postseason football, and it's right here on Orange Heat. What's going on, football fans? Welcome to Orange Heat. I'm Giovanni Heater, as always, and today we got quite the stacked lineup joining us. We have Evan Hughes and Jake Lyman from Virginia Tech University and the Sports Media and Analytics program on behalf of 3304 Sports. And then we have my good buddy, you guys know and love him, Mr. Kyle Marchak. Guys, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me on.
Great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Of course. So, I just want to start real quick before we get into it and just introduce Evan and Jake a little bit. I know everyone hasn't necessarily seen them, but Evan and Jake, like I said, Virginia Tech students. Jake's a junior, Evan's a senior, and those guys have really been a core piece of the foundation building that program over at Virginia Tech. And they're a big inspiration to Kyle and I, through the roof talent. And they've been super kind to us and welcoming. And, Virginia Tech's on our list, very possible destination spot for us next fall. So thank you so much, guys, for being an inspiration to us.
Well, thank you guys for having us. You reminding me that I'm a senior is another reminder that I graduate in a couple months. So that is a scary thought. So enjoy it. Soak up the time being a senior in high school. Right, Jake?
Yeah, definitely. It goes by way too fast. I can't believe I'm already over the peak in college, but I appreciate the introduction there being mentioned in the same sentence as Mr. Evan Hughes, who he needs no introduction.
It's all a team effort here at Virginia Tech. Place to be. Team effort.
You guys are the best. So let's get into it. We're talking NFL playoff football. It doesn't get any better than that. Honestly, guys, if you told me at the beginning of this season that we'd get to this point on the exact scheduled date of these playoff games, I mean, are you kidding me? Kudos to Roger Goodell and the National Football League for getting this thing going. There were games on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There was football every day of the week. It was fantastic, and I just can't believe we're here.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive the way he's handled it. Obviously, it's a little bit easier when it's football. You only have to play, or at least one team only has to play once a week. But, handling an entire sports league through this pandemic is just, I don't know how Goodell does it.
I personally enjoyed the Wednesday afternoon game of the Ravens and the Steelers. So if we want to put an NFL game on every day of the week, I know that wouldn't be good for the players and the safety. But, hey, as a sports fan, no complaints.
Yeah, I know you guys. You're a Bills fan, Gio, and I'm a Titans fan. I enjoyed that Tuesday night game that we played against you guys. So I don't know. I think maybe expand the schedule a little bit. Why have football only 3 nights a week when maybe 4 or 5? I'd be good up to 7.
It's funny you say that. I was reading some articles and listening to some stuff on Sports Talk Radio, and they were saying, that might be a possibility that networks start to look at. It definitely drew some attention. There's obviously revenue opportunities with that. That's more primetime football. Instead of playing so many games at 1 o'clock, why not play on a Wednesday night? That just adds up to money for the National Football League. So definitely interesting to see how that can play out. I don't love that you mentioned that Bills-Titans game early in the season, but we'll get into that, possibly a rematch at some point, who knows, throughout the playoffs. But so let's take a look at both sides of the bracket, and let's start with the NFC side of things. My opinion is that the NFC really not the strongest conference in this. I think the AFC has a lot more threat, a lot more talented, deep teams that could have the potential to make a run. With that being said, though, there's still some stacked squads in the NFC. So the first matchup I'd like to look at, obviously the Green Bay Packers have the 1 seed. They get that first round bye. And we'll take a look at how about the Washington football team playing host to Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The football team, a 4 seed, the Bucs, a 5 seed. Guys, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, generally speaking, obviously, Washington record-wise, weakest team in the entire playoff picture. But, with the leadership of Alex Smith, I think it'll be a lot closer of a game than people buy into. But I'm not going to make a hot take right off the bat. I have the Bucks first.
I'm ready to make a hot take. First of all, before I make the hot take, I'd just like to say that I think it was such a bummer that the Eagles-Reds Washington football team game transpired the way it did, because the topic of conversation on Monday was, did the Eagles tank, and what the decision was like of Nate Sudfeld coming in for Jalen Hurts in a one-score game, when it should have been, this is one of the greatest comeback stories we've ever seen, with Alex Smith getting the playoffs and Ron Rivera literally beating cancer in the middle of coaching in his first season in Washington and getting to the playoffs. I love the story. I think the E60 was one of the best documentaries I saw all of 2020 on Alex Smith's recovery. But guys, it's not Tampa Bay, it's Tampa Bay. Buccaneers are hot. They're rolling offensively. Everyone's involved. Antonio Brown's getting a lot of receptions. Gronk's playing like a top 5 tight end. They can run the ball with Ronald Jones. I know there's a good front seven for Washington. I like the Buccaneers by at least 10 or more in this game.
Jake?
Wow, you guys are going to make me do it. I have to be the hot take guy in the first game. I'm going with Washington.
Wow.
I think that the football team can do it. Look at Tom Brady's career. He's made the playoffs, 19 times, something like that. Not once has he been a wild card. He has never had to go on the road on wild card weekend, and he has to face possibly one of the best front sevens and pass rushes in the entire league.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Smith has been good when he's in there. They've got weapons with McLaurin, Antonio Gibson, Logan Thomas. Go Hokies. I'm going with the football team. I think they pull off the upset, similar to the Seahawks in the Beastquake game about 10 years ago.
I just point out real quick that Mark Sanchez has more road playoff wins than Tom Brady. Take it or leave it.
That might be the only stat that he has higher than Tom Brady. And Tom Brady doesn't have a butt fumble. But
oh man,
Jake, I actually I hear what you're saying. I think this game's closer than some people expect. I really like Chase Young in that front seven on the defensive line. They are stout. I think they could give Tom Brady's offensive line some problems. I think Brady finds himself on the ground a little bit more than he's used to. Obviously, not a quarterback that's going to be able to run, right? If the rush is coming, I mean, he's going down, right? That's just plain and simple. With that being said, Evan said it best. The receiving core is phenomenal for the Bucs, one of the best in the National Football League. Mike Evans should be healthy for this matchup. You got Antonio Brown, you got Chris Godwin, you got Gronk. They're studs. I think the defensive side of the football for Tampa Bay is also extremely talented, especially at the linebacker position. I got Tampa Bay. It's a close one, but I got Tampa Bay.
Hey, and add on that real quick. Buccaneers have won 4 in a row, right? Everyone's waiting for this team to kind of hit their ceiling, and I think they're close to it offensively. You watch that Eagles game, though, and again, I personally want to see the upset. I want to agree with my dear friend Jake Lyman. However, you watch that offense, and Alex Smith has a calf injury on that leg that has gone through so many surgeries. You watch that offense; it is so. I don't want to use the word stale, but there's only so much Alex Smith can do. He can't move around in the pocket. Offensive line has to protect him to have a chance. I think that the Washington football team wins the game if they have a runner go over the century mark. They have to run the football well. They cannot rely solely on Alex Smith to win them this football game.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, think about that play in that final game against the Eagles where it looked like an offensive a rush passer for the Eagles kind of jumped the snap and fell over right on the injured leg of Alex Smith. That wasn't a pretty look. Just briefly speaking, all the adversity he's gone through, obviously a ton of leadership on both sides of the ball here. But at the end of the day, I feel like Tom Brady this season proved that he wasn't just a system QB. And with that being said, I think despite kind of him being in a foreign environment, as Jake mentioned, he'll perform.
Awesome, guys. Sorry, go Jake.
I'm good either way because I think on one side, you get the great story of Alex Smith, Ron Rivera winning a playoff game. The other side, you're most likely getting Tom Brady going to face Aaron Rodgers in Lambeau, which I would be ecstatic to see that matchup next week. So either way, I'm good. I think it's going to be a better game than people think.
Absolutely. So now we'll take a look at another matchup in the NFC Super wild card weekend, as they're calling it this year. So it's the New Orleans Saints playing host to the Chicago Bears. Saints coming in at a 2 seed, had a phenomenal season. Didn't have Drew Brees the whole way. A lot of quarterback carousel going on with Taysom Hill getting a lot of snaps, a lot of reps. Jameis Winston certainly wanted that time. Not necessarily there. The question mark, who's the quarterback of the future for the Saints? But that's an off-season conversation. First, they got to play the Bears round one. Honestly, I don't think this game's close. I think the Saints win this one big. I don't see Chicago even hanging in there much longer than the first or second quarter. I don't think the Saints are all that. I really don't, but I think Kamara's fantastic. I think that the defensive side of the football for the Saints is really strong, and I just don't think Mitchell Trubisky has it in him.
Yeah, I can respect that decision too. Obviously, we're sticking with what the numbers saying. Obviously, the Saints have just a far more productive offense. Drew Brees, still a guy who's similar to Tom Brady, where, is he just a system QB? Doesn't matter, because he's performed so well for so long with the Saints, and he continues to do so. Obviously, without Mike Thomas, it's a little bit different. And, one thing I noticed is Kamara's listed as questionable, although obviously I think he'll find his way into the game. And, as long as Kamara's in there, I'm confident that their offense will produce enough to get past the Bears defense, which is kind of lackluster in many ways.
I have one word to describe this game. If the camera doesn't flip.
Boring. Yeah.
In all caps. This game is the one game that just does not excite me whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
I actually buy New Orleans. I think this is the end for Drew Brees, and I think he's going to leave it all on the line. I think that this is a blowout of a game. I would not be surprised. 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns. I give all the credit in the world to Mitch Trubisky coming in after being benched and resurrecting this team and at least showing that he might be worthy of another year as a starting quarterback in Chicago. But listen, the Saints aren't losing this game. They're at home. Bears are on the road. I just don't think the Bears have enough offense to keep up with New Orleans' explosive attack, especially if Alvin Kamara runs the ball like he did against the Vikings on Christmas Day. Saints roll this one.
Evan, it is going to be a boring game. I think so, but at least it's on Nickelodeon, so you're probably going to get SpongeBob SquarePants on the field at some point. So that's something to look forward to. Noah Eagle on the call, yeah. So that'll be interesting. And I believe his father is doing the
Bills
CBS
game
telecast for that game. Oh, he's doing the Bills.
He's doing the Bills, yeah.
Okay, I was hoping it would be father-son.
Actually, you know what? I might be wrong. I don't remember. I might be wrong.
We'll see. It could be cool if Ian and Noah are both calling the same game. But on the field, it's going to be the Saints. I'm not going to be the hot take guy over here on this one. The Bears just that good of a team. But I do want to just play devil's advocate a little bit here. I think the Saints have been the best team in the NFC for the past half decade. Every year, if you ask me my Super Bowl pick since I went to college, so 3-4 years ago, I would have told you the Saints are coming out of the NFC, and they always choke in the playoffs. I mean, you look back, the Minneapolis Miracle, the defensive pass interference that wasn't called against the Rams. Last year, choking against the 6-seed Vikings at home. I don't know. I'm just saying that the Saints always find a way to lose those games. It would surprise me, but it wouldn't shock me if the Bears pulled it off.
I like it. That's a little bit of a hot take there. And now we move on to our final wild card game out of the NFC. And I think this is the best one out of the NFC. That's why I saved it for last. That's the Los Angeles Rams going up to Seattle and taking on Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll, and the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks a 3 seed, the Rams a 6 seed in this matchup. Now, it looks like the Rams possibly, likely, I believe, will be without Jared Goff due to a thumb injury. But don't discredit John Wolford. Came out of Wake Forest, played for the Demon Deacons in college, and I think that he brings another element to the LA Rams offense that wasn't there the whole year. I'm not saying he's fantastic, and he's probably not throwing the ball like Jared Goff, but the capability of him to be a dual threat guy and run the football gave the Arizona Cardinals a little bit of problems in Week 17, and that's why the Cardinals aren't in the playoffs here. That being said, I think Seattle is really good despite some of their struggles throughout the middle portion-ish of the season. Russell Wilson plays some of the best playoff football out there. The receiving core with Lockett and then the young buck DK Metcalf. The struggles will be on the defensive side of the football for Seattle. I think it's a close one. I think it goes to the fourth quarter, but I like Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you, Gio. Obviously, I think this will be out of the 3 wildcard games, the most competitive one, despite the lack of a presence of Jared Goff. But with that being said, without Goff, Wolford can put up decent numbers, and he's proven that a little bit in his previous game, 235 yards passing, which isn't terrible for one of his earlier performances in his career. But at the end of the day, without Jared Goff, I just don't think they have the leadership to get through, and Wilson's just a clutch factor at this point.
There was a hopeful New York Jets fan about a month ago who surveyed the final 3 games of the New York Jets season at 0-13 and said, oh, the Jets are definitely going to go winless. They have to play the number 1 defense on the road in LA in the Rams. And they've got to play a playoff team in the Browns. And then they play a team they haven't beaten since 2015 in the Patriots. And the Los Angeles Rams, a team that we call Sean McVay this great offensive mind. I believe he is. Yes, John Walford's playing well. This team at full strength lost to the New York Jets at home. At home! I'm sorry, guys. Listen, I don't care if it's Goff or Walford, and I'm not picking this game just because they lost to the Jets. I'm picking this game because Pete Carroll is a Super Bowl champion. Russell Wilson is even though this offense has looked stale and bad the last month or so, in a close ball game, am I taking John Walford or Russell Wilson? Or even if Goff plays, I'm taking Russell Wilson. I think that the Seahawks find a way to win this game. And but I do think it's close. And I think this is one of those games that's kind of ugly. Like you're on scoreagami watch going into the 4th quarter. You know what I mean? Like it's just a how did we get here type game. I think it'll be competitive, and I like the Seahawks to pull it out at the end.
This is one of those games where it kind of shows how much better the AFC is than the NFC, because I just don't like either of these teams all that much. But it would not surprise me at all to see either of them in the NFC Championship this year, just because of how weak the conference is.
Yep.
And we've been talking about it. The 3 games in the NFC this week aren't nearly as exciting as the 3 in the AFC. And I think, like you guys are saying, this probably is the best one. If Goff doesn't play, I don't see any way Russell Wilson loses this game, though. I probably will go with the Seahawks. If Goff plays, though, Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald can blow up any team's offense in their game plan going into a game. So I'll go Seahawks, but if Goff plays, I think it's a toss-up.
Yeah, you said it really well. And none of us mentioned it until you did, Jake. Aaron Donald, arguably the best defensive player in the National Football League right now. Jalen Ramsey is a huge threat to Russell Wilson in the secondary. And I will say, Russell Wilson has thrown a lot of interceptions this year. Matter of fact, he threw 3 of them against the Buffalo Bills, who, yes, they're really good at forcing turnovers. Yes, they have a good secondary, but they're not the best secondary in the National Football League. Wilson has struggled down the stretch of this season with turning the ball over. Again, I still have Seattle winning it decently. It's decently close, but still winning it in the 4th quarter against the Rams. So with that being said, we mentioned it that the Green Bay Packers, due to the new playoff situation in 2020, the new format, they're the one team with the bye. And before we take a look at the AFC, I want to talk a little bit about that. I'm under the belief that the best situation to have in this playoff format is the 2 seed. It's not the 1 seed, because I think when you have a first round bye, you have the opportunity to get out of your rhythm, right? You're not having your normal week of regular practice with the preparation for a game on Sunday. Everything just gets thrown out of sync a little bit. You could find yourself getting a little bit stale if you're not staying ready. Just looking at the Buffalo Bills, a team who is on fire as of late, the last thing I would want a team like that to do is have to take a break, right? That's exactly what the Green Bay Packers have to do. They have to take a week off. I think that could be dangerous, guys. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I can respect that, but it's funny that you mentioned that because technically, if you look at all of the teams that these guys have to face, I think the Bills leading it off against the Colts is actually extremely difficult. I think that'll be the hardest team that they have to face in their schedule. Then they move on to the Chiefs, which for other reasons they'll do fine. Obviously, I have the numbers to back this up, and I'll go into it later. But technically, in some ways, you could say that the 2 seed has a difficult trip up to the Super Bowl. So there's a lot of different ways to look at it, but I can respect that idea of not getting that break in for sure.
I see the argument here, Gio, and I think you got a point, right? A team that's hot playing, an extra game. Momentum is a big thing in sports, and if you take a week off, sometimes you can lose that. I think it depends on the team. I think Kansas City actually really needed this bye. And this is a team that's winning a bunch of one-score games down the stretch. And I mean, it's a lot to ask every single game for Patrick Mahomes to save you. I mean, the Chiefs did go 15-1, but I don't think they were playing their best football in December. So I think that giving them a week off to tweak things and rest a little bit is very important. And think about it. Let's say the Chiefs are the 2 seed here, even I mean, you're playing a really good Colts team, or maybe even a Browns team who can beat you. That's 1 week less of having Myles Garrett hit you if you're Patrick Mahomes. That's 1 week less of the wear and tear of the travel. So I see both sides. So I think it benefits the Bills to be the 2 seed because they have momentum. And it benefits the Chiefs because I think they needed a week to reset.
Yeah, and I see your argument there, especially looking back at last year. Like, we saw the Ravens won 12 straight games heading into the playoffs and then take a week off and get destroyed by my Titans. So I agree with that. I just think the Chiefs and Packers are pretty clearly the 2 best teams in their respective conferences. And obviously anything can happen. It's the playoffs. In a one-game playoff, anybody can lose, anybody can win. But in the NFC specifically, I just like the Packers so much better than any of the other teams out there. I think they are head and shoulders above everybody else. The Chiefs, I think you're onto something there. It could have a little bit of an effect.
All right, guys, that's great conversation. Now let's move on to the AFC side of this bracket in Super Wild Card Weekend. And we'll start things off with what I believe to be the biggest gap in here. And that's kind of what we did earlier. You know, we narrowed it down to the closest game of the weekend. So we'll talk about the Buffalo Bills and the Indianapolis Colts. Obviously, the Colts with the 7 seed, the Bills with that 2 seed. I'll just go out flat out and say it. I don't think that the Bills are going to lose. I think the Bills are the Super Bowl champions. With that being said, I think that the Colts are going to be a very tough game. You know, I think it's the most favorable matchup for the Buffalo Bills because their one struggle defensively has been stopping the run. And I don't want to play a Nick Chubb and I don't want to play a Lamar Jackson. And I definitely want nothing to do with a Derrick Henry if I'm the Buffalo Bills. I think that the running back game for the Indianapolis Colts is good. Obviously, they have that guy, Taylor, out of Wisconsin, who's played some great football down the stretch of this season. But I think the Bills are really good at scoring quickly, getting out to early leads. And at that point, it's really hard to establish the run if you're the Indianapolis Colts because you're trying to play catch up. The thing for Buffalo is they're going to have to score quick like they've done all year. They're going to have to get ahead early. That way they can try and sustain that lead and make Indianapolis try and play catch up, throwing the ball with Phillip Rivers. I got Buffalo. I have Buffalo by probably a touchdown or 2. It's not going to be a 4 touchdown game like it's been down the stretch, but I do have Buffalo.
Yeah, personally, I'm going to say this might be the toughest game, like I said, that the Bills will have in this playoff bracket because, you know, obviously, Gio, you certainly have a specific fear for Derrick Henry and the Titans and, of course, Jackson and the Ravens. But, you know, that'll be maybe my only little hot take here is that the Colts will be the toughest game for them to play against. I mean, if you just look at the numbers, Rivers is only a couple hundred yards behind, Josh Allen in yards in production. And then you look at the rushing yards. Obviously, the Bills don't lean on their rushing offense too much. Singletary is very productive. And, of course, you have a guy behind him who is almost replicating the same type of production. So, again, so many different guys for them to go to offensively. But at the same time, if you look at Taylor, he puts up so many yards and just, you know, he totally dwarfs the numbers that Singletary's put up. 11 touchdowns to 2. Obviously, the Bills rely more in the air to produce an offense. And, you know, obviously the defenses vary. But with that being said, I think this will be the toughest game for the Bills. But at the end of the day, I'm still going to have the Bills. I'm going to stick with my word that I mentioned that previous broadcast from Gio and I. And the Bills will find at least a little bit of success in this playoff bracket for sure.
I think this is going to be one of the most entertaining games of the entire weekend. And I think this is a game that literally could come down to a final kick. And here's why. I think the Bills win this game, but I don't think they're playing the true 7 seed in the AFC. I think Indianapolis right now is a better football team than Pittsburgh. I think they're a better football team than Cleveland. And I think that the Colts, the way they've played the last 2 weeks, yes, they lost to Heartbreaker a couple weeks ago to the Steelers, but a game that they led. And then Jonathan Taylor ran for over 200 yards. Yes, I know it's Jacksonville, but they already had the number 1 pick locked up. It's not like they were tanking intentionally. They could have won and still had it. I mean, Naheem Hines out of the backfield, 2 great running backs. And guys, Phillip Rivers left the Chargers because he wanted to make a run at a Super Bowl. He has played really well the second half of the year. This might be his last go at it. And you know Phillip Rivers is going to leave everything on that football field. He wants to try and make a run. I think the Bills are the hottest team in football, but I think the Colts are a top 3 hottest team in football right now. I think this is an incredibly tough test. I'm going Bills 38-35 and a high-scoring affair.
Yeah, I'm with you, Evan. I think this is possibly, and I like what Gio said, that there are matchups that may be worse, but I think this is the worst matchup Bills could have asked for in the first round. The Colts, offensively, they do exactly what the Titans do. They run the ball and they do play action, but not nearly as well as the Titans do it. The difference is the Colts defense isn't made of Swiss cheese like the Titans is. And the Colts can at least pressure Josh Allen. They can stop the run. Their secondary has been better than a lot of people expected. I'm going to pick the Bills here. I'm with Evan. I'm sticking with the Bills, but I just do not like this matchup for Buffalo. And I like Buffalo. If the Titans lose, I'm a big Bills guy in the AFC. I want to see them go all the way. But I don't like this matchup. I'm hoping 4:00 tomorrow, they'll have gotten rid of all the doubts that I kind of have heading into the game.
Well, you guys all make a fantastic case, and you got me a little nervous for kickoff at 1:00 tomorrow. But I'm excited. Should be a great game. Playoff football in Orchard Park for the Buffalo Bills for the first time since 1996. Just absolutely incredible what the season has been for Buffalo, and I don't think we're done talking about them just yet. But we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at our next matchup. That's the Pittsburgh Steelers at the 3 seed playing host to the Cleveland Browns at the 6 seed. The Browns obviously snapped that playoff drought, an NFL record, 18 years since the last time they played an NFL playoff game, and then they're in it. Baker Mayfield takes them there. Browns fans are excited. I don't think they should be all that excited. And I was pretty high on what they had to offer until week 17 when I saw them struggle to beat a Pittsburgh team that didn't play Ben Roethlisberger, that didn't play a core piece of their defense for most of the game, and TJ Watt and Minkah Fitzpatrick. Yes, they played a lot of their good receivers. Claypool had a couple of big catches, including a touchdown down the stretch of that game. But the Browns still only beat the Steelers by 2 points, and it was really half the Steelers squad. I think the Browns will come ready this game, but I think the Steelers actually do win this one by probably about 10 points.
I'll keep it simple. 2 names, Ben Roethlisberger, TJ Watt. The Browns will have little to no offensive production. They lean on Nick Chubb a little bit too much. Obviously, Baker Mayfield is a little bit of a mobile quarterback. He can produce a little bit, but at the end of the day, I have it 21-14, and the Steelers will walk away with it.
Guys, I am not a believer in Ben Roethlisberger.
Me neither.
To down the stretch here in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he can't throw the deep ball right now. I know he's got experience, but it's not like he's playing at an older age like Phillip Rivers is playing this year, or even Tom Brady. I think the Steelers were one of the flukiest 11-0 teams in the history of the National Football League. And earlier in the week, I actually picked the Cleveland Browns to win this game. But with Olivier Vernon being out, which I think is a huge loss, and with no Kevin Stefanski, I just think it is too much. It was already going to be a little bit of a hurdle, not a big one, but I think the loss of Stefanski and Vernon is just too much. I think the Steelers find a way to win this football game. I don't think the Steelers get past the wild card round, but I do think they take care of business.
Yeah, I want to make it clear because I am going to pick the Steelers, but the Steelers are a bad football team. Mm-hmm. They are not the 3 seed, worthy of the 3 seed in the AFC. And I think no matter who they play next week, whether it is the Ravens or the Titans, I believe that, or the Bills. Ravens, Titans, or Bills are the 3 teams they can play. Whoever plays them will blow them out of the building. And I honestly believe that. But they're going to beat the Browns. With no head coach, they haven't practiced all week because of COVID. The Browns, it's just in their franchise's nature. The first time they make the playoffs in 17 years, they don't get to practice all week and have an interim head coach. So I'm going with the Steelers. They will not make it past this game.
Yeah, no, I'm there with you. And just to add a little bit onto what you guys said, I think Ben Roethlisberger, it's tough to watch at times. And my little cousin is a huge Steelers fan. I root for them as much as I can for him, but it's hard to watch this guy. It looks like he's in pain sometimes, to be quite honest, out there. He doesn't seem to be like fit to play football. And it seems like it's making them struggle. And it's a shame because this receiving core for the Pittsburgh Steelers is really, really deadly if they could have a guy that can consistently throw the ball to them, especially spreading the field. You don't really have to wait for them to throw the ball deep. Your safeties and your secondary can kind of play up and can kind of not have to give any kind of cushion. You know that the ball is probably not going to be thrown 30, 40, 50 yards plus in a football game. That's just kind of simple. With that being said, I think they beat the Browns. And then I think after that, it is a loss no matter who they play. So we'll take this to what I think is actually the most interesting matchup of the AFC and the entire weekend here. That's the Tennessee Titans and the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens coming in at a 5 seed, the Titans at the 4th seed. So they're just right back to back on each other there. A lot to unpack with this game, a lot to unpack. Lamar Jackson struggled this year, right? Wasn't that MVP caliber quarterback that he was throughout all of last season. The unanimous pick for the MVP. That was phenomenal for Lamar Jackson. Didn't come out and do the same thing this year. The Ravens had struggles early, but down the stretch of this season, they've come away with some big wins in exciting fashion, and it started with a Monday Night Football victory against the Cleveland Browns. I think the Baltimore Ravens are hot. I think they're playing a lot better. I think the struggles are real for them on the defensive side of the ball. And then on the other side, it's the Tennessee Titans. They're not throwing the ball a lot with Ryan Tannehill, but when you have King Derrick Henry back there, I mean, are you kidding me? This guy is probably the most feared running back to play in the NFL since maybe Jim Brown out of Syracuse. And I'm being 100% honest with that. So this guy's a tank. He's built like not even a football player, like probably a bodybuilder, right? It's just incredible to see. He's built like kind of like a defensive lineman, a defensive end. He's athletic, he's fast, but he's just absolutely elite. I have the Titans in a very close game, and it's because of the rushing attack. Henry's going to go for possibly another 200 yards on this Ravens defense, and the Titans win it, guys. What are your thoughts? What a fantastic game.
Well, I mean, just physically looking at Derrick Henry, he just looks like a freak of nature. I mean, he reminds me a lot of when I see that famous photo of DK Metcalf. It's just, I thought I was decently fit. And then that all goes out the window when I look at DK Metcalf and, of course, Derrick Henry. Freak of nature. Obviously, an easier offense to read because if you think the Browns lean a little bit on Nick Chubb, wait till you see the way they lean on their rushing offense production in Derrick Henry. But, he's clearly an MVP candidate. He's just unstoppable. But at the end of the day, as long as A.J. Brown plays, I think that'll be a big key for Tannehill's production. And obviously, he'll need to be there in a playoff game against Lamar Jackson, who is a very productive quarterback as well. Of course, a guy who also leans on the rushing game. So it'll be an interesting game. But because I think this game will stay on the ground, I think it'll be pretty close and maybe even a low-scoring affair. With that being said, I have the Titans walking away with it by a touchdown, 21-14.
This is going to be the best game of the weekend. To your point, Gio, Lamar Jackson did not play up to the insane level he played last year when he was unanimous MVP. But this is a Ravens team who had to fight to get into the playoffs and got hot down the stretch. My big knock on Lamar all year has been he's not been able to pass the football well. I feel like the last couple of weeks he's thrown the football better, and that's a big reason why the Ravens have succeeded. He is 0-2 as a starting quarterback in the postseason. He's going to be looking for a huge contract extension coming up. And I am of the belief, if they don't win this game, there are going to be serious doubts about if Lamar Jackson can be the guy as talented as he is, if he can be the guy who can win a Super Bowl. I love the Tennessee Titans. I love Ryan Tannehill because I hope he's Sam Darnold, or Sam Darnold's going to be Ryan Tannehill 2.0. I love Derrick Henry. I'm not going to lie, Jake, you watch way more Titans football clearly as a Titans fan than I do. I was worried about the way the defense played last week against Houston. Yes, Deshaun Watson's great, but that was a high-scoring game. I've got this gut feeling, and I think Jake's going to slap me for saying this. I like the Ravens to pull this out. I just think that that Lamar Jackson, he can't lose this game. He's got to win this game. They're flying under the radar. Instead of being a top seed, they're like a Michigan State Tom Izzo basketball team as a 9 seed in the NCAA tournament that gets hot at the right time. I'm going Ravens. They avenged the playoff loss from the Titans last year in a close game. However, I'd like to see Derrick Henry and the Titans advance, but I like the Ravens.
All right, now let's turn it over to the Titans fan in the room, none other than Mr. Jake Lyman. Jake, unpack it for us.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. I'll start with Evan. I just want to I think the reason that the Ravens lose this game is because Lamar Jackson is 0-2 in the playoffs. I think he is going to have so much pressure on himself to go out there and ball out and put up 500 yards of offense and 4 touchdowns and beat the Titans that he's going to make some mistakes out there. The Titans defense is one of the worst in football. Watching it all year, they can't stop anything. They couldn't stop a runny nose, but they force turnovers at a pretty high rate, which is the only good thing that they do. And I think that Lamar Jackson is good for 2 turnovers probably tomorrow. And then offensively, I don't think it's Derrick Henry that wins tomorrow. I think Henry will have his usual game of 80 to 110 yards and maybe a touchdown or 2. I think it's Ryan Tannehill who puts the team on his back. People forget he had 40 total touchdowns this year and just 7 interceptions. He's probably a top 10 MVP candidate with Henry as a top 5. And I want to go what Kyle said. You look at the picture of DK Metcalf working out. The guy next to him, pretty good too, A.J. Brown. I think AJ is going to have a huge game tomorrow. He's moderately healthy, not great, but I think he's going to go for about 150 and 2 touchdowns, and I think the Titans win by about 10.
I just have to state, that's exactly the point I was getting at, and I can't help but agree. As long as A.J. Brown is playing, I think Tannehill will be the key to the game. So a lot of chess pieces you have to move to see how this one will turn out. So I really like that take right there, Jake.
Fantastic, guys. So it's difficult to really play out a bracket at this point because some of us have some differing picks. So I'd really like to finish things off here by giving our conference championship picks, followed by our Super Bowl picks. Then we'll pick a winner of the Super Bowl for each of us and maybe give a couple hot takes and really just drive this thing home. It's an exciting weekend of football. The next couple of weeks developing are going to be fantastic. Just to say one last thing about the Ravens and the Titans. This situation for Lamar Jackson kind of reminds me of what's going on with Ohio State football, right? They remember that score last year, losing to the Tennessee Titans. Ryan Day of Ohio State made that a part of their program this year. The score was written up in the locker room. It was in the weight room. These guys had to experience that every single day. If you don't think the Baltimore Ravens are going to come out motivated and hungry, you clearly don't know anything about football, right? So I'm definitely excited for that. That's the game of the week, in my opinion. So, guys, let's really dive deep now once we get to the stretch of the playoffs. I'm going to make my NFC championship predictions and then who will go to the Super Bowl out of the NFC, and then I'll pass it over to you guys as well. So the way the bracket works out, I don't believe if my wins add up, I don't believe that there could be an NFC championship between the Green Bay Packers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I believe it would be the Saints and the Buccaneers. And with that being said, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. And I know that's a massive hot take. There's a lot of people that would agree, but there's also a lot of people that would say I'm crazy. And honestly, there's not much that points towards that. They got torched by the New Orleans Saints, not once, twice this year. But just look at what they have on paper. Defensively, they're fantastic, especially at the linebacker position. And then offensively, I'll say it again, it's Tom Brady. I'm not going to bet against the guy in the playoffs. I mean, he's arguably the greatest quarterback of all time. I think he's really hungry to prove a point that he basically doesn't need Belichick in New England to get the job done. I think that Tom Brady takes this team to an NFC championship and a spot in the Super Bowl. Guys, unpack it for me. What are your thoughts on the NFC?
Well, I look at it this way. I don't think the Bucs will have to worry about the Saints. Packers will meet them there. And that's the problem, is it's a really tough decision now because those are two teams with who really lean on their quarterbacks. Obviously, both both guys who just very storied in the NFL, just to speak broadly. But at the end of the day, I think, Rob Gronkowski is a front runner for comeback player of the year. Tom Brady, like I said, has proven he's not a system QB. I have the Bucs walking away with it very slimly, and they'll find themselves with a Super Bowl opportunity.
Wow, Marchak.
I also have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Oh, man.
I think that the Buccaneers will actually, I'll be honest with you guys, and here's my biggest hot take. I don't buy the Green Bay Packers.
Me neither, man. Me neither.
Listen, here's what I'm going off of. This is a very similar roster to last year when the Packers went 13-3 and got killed in the NFC Championship game by the San Francisco 49ers. I know Rodgers ball now, and I think Devontae Adams is legit. I think Aaron Jones is going to struggle in the postseason. I don't think there's enough weapons. I don't trust their defense. I can't. All year, I have not bought into this Packer craze. I think Tampa goes into Lambeau and beats Green Bay. And I think they're going to beat Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints in the battle of 40-plus-year-old quarterbacks in the NFC Championship game. Tampa, New Orleans, and Tampa Bay. Because, guys, it's hard to beat a team, Joe, you're pointing out. Hard to beat a team 3 times in a season. Mm-hmm. And I think Tampa Bay gets it done when it matters most. Jake is totally disagreeing with us. I'm curious to go where he goes.
I just, with experience from last year, watching the Titans playoff run as a wild card team, it is tough to go on the road 3 straight weeks and keep winning the playoffs. And that's my issue with Bucs is if you win in Washington this week, you've probably got to go to Lambeau. And then if you win that, you've got to go to the Superdome. I don't think that's a very good formula for success there. I'm going with the Packers. I think the difference this year from last year is that they're the 1 seed. They get the bye. They get to play every game they play at Lambeau Field. They don't have to go on the road to San Francisco like they did last year and play what was just a juggernaut of a defense. I mean, I thought the Niners were going to go back to the Super Bowl this year, but all those injuries kind of turned them in. I think the Packers are the best team in the NFC, but anything can happen. I don't believe in the Saints enough to have them winning. I don't believe in the Seahawks and the Bucs. I just don't think they can go on the road 3 times in a row and win all 3. That's my reasoning there.
I think the biggest thing, and I'm with you, Evan, I'm not high on the Green Bay Packers. In fact, I think they're overrated, to be quite honest with you. I think the defense isn't that strong. Yes, the offense has some eliteness to it, but they've proved that when they get into close games, things get a little scary. Hence the Indianapolis Colts beating the Green Bay Packers down the stretch of that ball game. And I think the biggest thing for the Packers, David Bakhtiari out for the rest of the season. On the offensive line, if you can't protect Aaron Rodgers, that throws a lot of things out the window. That's going to be the biggest problem for the Green Bay Packers down the stretch of this playoffs, is not having one of the greatest offensive linemen in the National Football League right now. He's out. He's not coming back, and it's not looking good if you're a Packers fan. So, guys, I know Marchak has to go in about 3 minutes, so I really want to turn things over to the AFC side before we start to wrap things up, guys. It's really an exciting situation when you look at the AFC playoff picture. I'll name my AFC championship matchup, and then I'll have you guys do the same. Throughout it all, I think the Steelers lose in round 2. I think the Titans have a good game with the Steelers, but then end up, really pulling away no problem against them in the second half. And I think the AFC championship game, you will see the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. And what a rematch it'll be, because the Kansas City Chiefs played the Buffalo Bills right after they lost to the Titans, and the Kansas City Chiefs won that game comfortably. It was closer than, the Titans game. It was within a possession or two. But here's the thing. A lot of people don't know this. Josh Allen was injured for 4 games, and those are the 4 games that they struggled besides the Arizona Cardinals game. He had an injury in his non-throwing shoulder. Brian Hoyer talked about it on NFL Live. He's had that same injury. Though it's not your throwing shoulder, it completely changes the way that you throw a football, how you twist your hips. He was getting in depth with it, and it really had me sold. That's why the Bills were all of a sudden struggling to pass, and those were the 4 games when he had a brace on his shoulder that they struggled, and it was against the Titans and the Chiefs. And With that being said, I think that Josh Allen healthy is a completely different player. They even changed their game plan. They didn't throw the ball as much in that game. They definitely didn't throw the ball deep in that game. They really tried to ground and pound on the Chiefs, which isn't the Buffalo Bills game. It was raining that day. Not a good recipe for passing the football. I think the Buffalo Bills are, like Evan said, the hottest team in the National Football League. They've won 9 out of their last 10. And, I'm sorry, that one loss came to a Hail Murray when Kyler Murray hit DeAndre Hopkins in the end zone.
Shotgun. Murray out of the pocket. 7 seconds. 6 seconds. Murray heaves it downfield. It is. Oh, it's caught. It is caught.
They're almost 10-0 in the last 10 games. 7 of those last 10 have been by double digits. They've won the last 4 or 5 by complete blowouts. They beat the Steelers on primetime. They've showed up on primetime. I don't think anything can get this team nervous. I have the Buffalo Bills making it to the Super Bowl out of the AFC. What an AFC championship game it would be. It would be an exciting Sunday for football, to say the least. That's a fourth quarter game. That's 2 MVP candidates going at it right till the very end. But I think the Buffalo Bills are going to the Super Bowl. Guys, unpack it for me.
Yeah, I'll try and keep this brief, Gio. I think the Steelers will find themselves in an AFC championship with one reason. TJ Watt will, he has good rushing defense, and obviously those teams that he'll have to worry about will lean on that rushing offense. I know that's probably the hottest take I'll give you guys. I've been boring all night. But with that being said, I think the Bills are burning hot right now, and they'll continue to do so after toppling over the Steelers and finding themselves in a Super Bowl opportunity. And I think they will continue to do so against the Bucs in the Super Bowl, and they'll find themselves will win over the slightly above average defense in the Bucs. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. Thank you for having me on, Gio.
All right, of course, Kyle's got to take off. He's got to get to work. Thank you so much for being here, man.
Thank you for having me.
Wait, so I'm a little confused. Did he just say the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl? Is that what he just said? I think that's what I heard, because he said the Steelers. Whatever he just said, Kyle is that was a hot take with the Steelers, to say the least.
I have been saying it all year since week 1. I'm lucky enough to do a segment on ESPN Blacksburg every week where they have me on to talk NFL, and I know that the Bills are the hottest team in football. And I think Josh Allen is the MVP of this year. I think that Sean McDermott is a terrific coach. I think it will be the Bills and the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. But the Chiefs will win, and they will win the Super Bowl convincingly, because I personally believe that the Kansas City Chiefs are head over heels the best team in the National Football League. When the game is on the line, there is no other person on this planet that is better suited to win a football game than Patrick Mahomes. Time and time again, double-digit deficits twice last year in the postseason. He didn't even play well in the Super Bowl, and the man was able to finish out in the fourth quarter. This guy, I mean, remember when they were playing the Raiders a couple of weeks ago, and the Raiders scored the minute 43 left, and, like, you're just sitting there like, no, it's over. Listen, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins, Pringle on the outside as well. I mean, I like the Bills, and I think that out of any team, AFC or NFC, the Bills are best suited to beat the Chiefs if they're going to do it. But I just cannot pick against Patrick Mahomes. Home field advantage. I'm not going to not take the Chiefs until I see somebody beat them.
Yeah, I'm right with you, Evan. I love the Bills. I think out of everybody in the AFC, again, not the Tennessee Titans, I'd love to see the Bills in the Super Bowl. I just can't pick against Patrick Mahomes. That dude, just watching him in the AFC Championship last year, the Titans were up 17-7. And I was in my head, I was like, Titans are going to the Super Bowl. 17-7 with Derrick Henry, you got a 10-point lead. Just run clock, keep him off the field. It doesn't work. Patrick Mahomes is just that good. He just winds back 15 yards, launches a ball 70 yards downfield, and all of a sudden you're down by 20. Like, it's just how he does it. Coming off a bye with Andy Reid as his head coach, I love the Bills. I really hope to see the Bills in the Super Bowl. I just think I can't pick against the Chiefs until somebody beats them, just like Evan said.
And again, Bills would be a great story. But I think Patrick Mahomes right now is in position to, like, win multiple Super Bowls in a row.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he is just that special. And it's nothing that the Bills don't have necessarily. It's just he is a freak of nature. He is a bad man.
Yeah.
On steroids. But the difference is, here's the thing: turnovers are, if he turns the football over, which he's only done in like the Falcons game, it was like a really off game that they barely won. If Buffalo can force turnovers, they can absolutely win. I think the gap is like here between the Chiefs and the Bills, and everybody else, it's like here, Chiefs to everybody else. So the Bills can close that gap. It's just a matter of they have to find a way to force turnover. That's the bottom line.
I loved how I'm a big Mike Greenberg fan on ESPN. Greeny, I think he's literally the best out there. Listen to him every single day. And I loved how he said it. He said, I'm not telling you to bet against Patrick Mahomes. I'm probably not going to tell you that for the next 15 years. He has himself set up to be possibly the greatest quarterback to play in the National Football League. That's how good he is. But he can't win them all. Nobody wins them all. Somebody has to beat him. Why not this year, the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen? Like you said, I think they're the best suited team to do so. Greeny went in depth with some crazy stats, like the Buffalo Bills throw it on first down more than any team, and all these recipes of why the Bills will beat them. It was awesome. And I think you said it best, Evan. The Bills are the best suited team. I have the Bills. And honestly, I'm putting the bias aside. I really am not saying it from a fan's perspective. The Bills are the hottest team. They've won the last 4 or 5 by complete blowouts against some decent squads. Like blowing out Miami was incredible. If you didn't think Miami had something to play for, you're crazy. They win that game, they're in the playoffs. 100%. If they win, they're playing this Sunday. So Miami is an inspired football team with a great defense, and Josh Allen had a field day. Are you kidding me? That's 2 weeks after the Chiefs struggled to beat the Miami Dolphins. I think the Bills beat the Kansas City Chiefs. It's shaping up to be an exciting playoff. So our last thing to uncover before I let you guys go and I turn you guys loose, I know you got to get going soon. Let's dive into our Super Bowls. I got the Bucs. I got the Bills. What a fantastic story. Buffalo Bills fans have struggled with the terror of Tom Brady for the last 20 years, absolutely dominating the Bills throughout the regular season in the AFC East. Tom Brady's something crazy like 28-5 against the Buffalo Bills in his career. So a story to see the Bills and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Super Bowl, the Bills fans getting an opportunity to see their team play against Tom Brady in a Super Bowl. Who would have ever thought that would even be a possibility? I think it's arguably one of the greatest stories in sports. I think that the Buffalo Bills beat Tampa Tom in a fantastic, historic game. Josh Allen, Super Bowl MVP. I can see the confetti. Now that's coming from a fan. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say.
It's a good thing the Bills don't have Scott Norwood this time, right? If they're in the Super Bowl. Anyway, no jokes aside.
They got a rookie kicker, though, Tyler Bass, who struggled.
From Georgia Southern, right?
Georgia Southern. He struggled at the beginning of the year pretty significantly, but he's really been the second half of the season lights out. Hasn't missed a kick.
So I've got the Buccaneers and the Chiefs, which was a terrific regular season game in November.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to have a Super Bowl matchup, which could go down as one of the biggest storylines ever. You've got, I think for the first time, I mean, this would almost be like, I think if it ever happened, hypothetically, like Michael Jordan facing a young LeBron in the championship. Like everyone knows MJ's, imagine that being like the early 2000s if MJ was still at his mid-90s peak, right?
Right. Or like 03 when LeBron came in and that was Michael's last year.
But the difference was, though, that Michael was not as good as 03 as Tom is right now at 43.
True.
So I think that, like Brady knows, like, gosh, I might need to get another Super Bowl because this kid Mahomes might be coming for me with 7. So you've got the GOAT against the GOAT, rising GOAT. And I think that it's just going to be a terrific storyline. I think that, Gronk coming out of retirement, Bruce Arians with the Bucs, like after he was so good with the Colts as an interim coach and then the Cardinals. And I think Andy Reid, I mean, another Super Bowl for him. He's going to continue to climb the ladder as being one of the greatest coaches to ever coach now that he would have not just 1, but 2 Super Bowls. So I think it's the quarterback story that molds it all together. And I think Patrick Mahomes wins it in the end.
Yeah, I went chalk. I've got the State Farm Bowl in the Super Bowl with Rodgers and Mahomes, who I think, at least in my lifetime, I think they're the 2 most talented quarterbacks I've ever seen play. Patriots fans, don't come after me. Tom Brady is the GOAT. I admit that. The most accomplished quarterback of all time. But Rodgers and Mahomes, they just do things that most other guys can't do. So I think that would be such a fun Super Bowl to watch with those guys just, throwing shots back and forth. I got to go with the Chiefs in it, though. I think they're kind of running into that spot where, like right now, they have this super team where you've got Frank Clark and Chris Jones and Tyrann Mathieu on the defensive side, and you've still got Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes and Clyde and Le'Veon, all those guys. But Mahomes' rookie deal is coming up. And soon he's going to be taking up a lot of your cap space. Cap's coming down. Eventually, they're going to have to get rid of some of those pieces around Mahomes and come back to the pack. I think this year is one of their last chances to go there with this many pieces and this talented of a team around a guy like Patrick Mahomes. And I think that they get it done and go back to back.
No, I love what you said about the defensive side, and that's something we didn't even mention. Chris Jones on the defensive line. I think he's the most underrated defensive lineman in the National Football League. He's a monster. And then obviously Tyrann Mathieu, one of the best guys in the secondary to play football right now. What an exciting game that would be in Jake's scenario, the Green Bay Packers and the Kansas City Chiefs. And in your scenario, I say that the Chiefs better not give Aaron Rodgers a free play. He does that better than anybody else to play football. So that could be a game changer. Guys, I think that does it for us. So if I'm not mistaken, you two had the Kansas City Chiefs winning the Super Bowl, and Marchak and I both had the Bills. I was a little confused on Marshak's finale there, but nonetheless, I think we had a fantastic episode. Thank you so much for being here, guys.
Thanks for having us. Look forward to next year previewing the Jets winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I appreciate you having us on, Gio. It was fun. I'm always down to talk some NFL football, and I'm excited for these next couple of weeks.
Absolutely. It's going to be an incredibly exciting weekend with Super Wild Card, and then it just gets even better as the playoffs will move on. So everybody out there that's listening, enjoy. Just sit on the couch, stay home, wear your mask if you have to go to the store to get some snacks and everything like that. Stay home, watch some football, and then kick back on Monday night to watch the College Football National Championship as well. Thank you so much for being here, guys. For Kyle Marchak, for Mr. Evan Hughes, for Jake Lyman, I'm Giovanni Heater, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for tuning in to Orange Heat with Giovanni Heater. For more Orange Heat action, be sure to hit that like, comment, and subscribe button down below. You can also find me on social media, Instagram at Giovanni Heater, Twitter at Gio Heater, Facebook at Giovanni Heater, and the Orange Heat with Giovanni Heater Facebook page. You can also find some of the other fellas that were featured in today's podcast episode, at Evan K. Hughes on Twitter, at Lyman Jake on Twitter, and at Kyle Marchak on Twitter. Thanks so much again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.